to introduce our next speaker. He's going to be talking about revolutionizing sexuality. A good buddy of mine, Steve Mayeda. He's a seven-time, did I get that right? Seven-time returning speaker to the 21 convention. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen his videos. He's amazing, so much fun, always gives a lot of energy. His website is thesexuallife.com, and he's the founder of The Sexual Life, and he's also featured on the 21 convention documentary. Check that out. It's amazing. So help me welcome Steve Mayeda.
Yeah. What's up, Robbie Kramer? How's life?
Good, good.
I don't know if you guys have got this, but somebody has been smart enough to check in on Facebook that you're at the 21 convention, and I've been blowing it up. So I've already put 3 posts up there, hopefully. Everybody's checked that. Anyway, so check this out, guys. What I want to talk to you guys about is about sex and sexuality and self, and even getting into the realms of discovering yourself, spirituality or morality and all that stuff through interacting and exchanging with people. And one of the first things that I want you guys to know about with this is that there is no shame, there's no fear, there's no anger, there's none of that stuff that is included and part of sexuality. That's all a myth. And what I mean by that is that no matter who you are, what your desires are, if you're man or woman, and what your motives are, to want to experience, exchange with another person, or sexuality with another person, or share something with another person, or even socialize with another person, there isn't any shame in that, all right? Who you are as a man and wanting to, because there's mainly men here, but who you are as a man or who you are as a person, has the absolute right to be able to want to experience different experiences with somebody, to share something with somebody. It could be a relationship. It could be meeting women and having as much sexual, crazy fantasy experiences as possible. And I think one of the biggest things that I've always found in this industry that I've worked in, I've spoken here 7 times, and 21 Convention is a huge part of, like my life, my career in doing this, and the evolution of myself, and actually the evolution of all the people involved in it that I see year after year, whether they're returning attendees or Mike back there editing quietly. Oh, he heard me, damn. But anyway, and Anthony Johnson and everybody else involved, is that through my evolution of all this, I found that through seduction, I was able to discover who I was and be the best possible person who I was. Now, check this out. The difference between somebody who feels shame and freedom through their sexual experiences has nothing to do with their sexual experiences, all right? For instance, if you were like me, hey, thanks, man. That was a cell phone, everybody who didn't hear that on the video. Anyway, for somebody like me, in 2007, 2006, I was with some of the most aggressive pickup guys and out there, and we defined with the term SNL and all that stuff, and now it's this heavily marketed thing, and that was my life. I wanted to do that. I wanted to go meet people and be able to sleep with them, sexually escalate, all that sort of stuff. And to me, that was something that I wanted. I didn't know why I wanted it. I, had the urge to do it. I was also crazy enough and tenacious enough to go out there and do it, and kind of sacrifice a whole bunch of different things just to try this technique, because man, I hadn't lived that life before. I hadn't lived a life that had women in it. I didn't live a life that had women in it that loved me and adored me, and I didn't really know how to translate that. And so through that, it was fuck, man, I want to get laid. And there's nothing wrong with that idea, all right? Here's the difference between, and there's nothing wrong with actually wanting a relationship or wanting to, be with someone or experience love or anything like that. It's for you to define and for you to discover, and that's the beautiful, beautiful journey, and one of the messages which isn't heard enough. Now, here's the difference with somebody who finds shame in that and somebody who finds freedom. It's one thing, and it's a very important thing, and I've experienced both sides of this, and through experience of life, probably you guys will experience both sides of this. And it is authenticity. What inspired me to go out there and to achieve different experiences with women or friends or social experiences where I could be cool or be the shit or whatever, or walk into a room and everybody high-five me and all that sort of stuff, was what made that good or what made that bad was my ability to be myself, all right? And one of the clear-cut and distinguishing factors that takes place within the philosophy of the sexual life and what we're promoting here, or actually what we're really presenting and sharing with you guys, and hopefully you guys take a chance and experience some of this stuff, is that in order to be the best person, live the best social life, sexual life, your best lifestyle, be your best self, you need to fundamentally work on you. Fundamentally. I don't want to polarize stuff too much, but one of the things that I will absolutely say when I talk to other people or see other stuff marketed, the information in the seduction industry is so saturated at times. One of the distinguishing factors, which is a requirement for me to actually kind of align with somebody or listen to what they have to say, is if you have to sacrifice yourself, who you are, your personality, your background, whatever that might be, whether that's your job or your family life or your culture, in order to be good at meeting people, then I'm completely against it, all right? And one of the most beautiful things about socializing and sexuality is they are fundamental things that are already inside of us. And more than anything else, we actually need to remove things from them. So if you guys are, you guys are attending, but if you guys are watching online, there's this little thing up here that says thesexuallife.com/Austin21. If you go to that, there's going to be a special there. And even if you're watching this video in 2013, 2014, or whatever, until YouTube crashes and the whole world has this giant collapse, we're all waiting. Everybody's got their guns, right? So actually, I shouldn't say that at this convention. But anyway, it should still be up there. There's a special for you guys to take part in immediately and to take action. That'll be a special for anybody who's a fan of the 21 Convention. 21 Convention, big part of my life. Big part of my life. For me to change mentally, for me to change as a person who's a sexual being, as a social being, and as a person who's even a physical being, paramount in my life. Paramount. So this is up there. I want you to take part in it. And what I'm actually going to talk about is we're going to split this up into two different, amazing little presentations. First off, I kind of only want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about authenticity, all right? It's kind of a big deal with me. If you don't want to talk about that, it's hard to have a conversation without that included. I want to talk about sexuality, and I want to talk about female perspectives. So let's start with this authenticity thing. And so one of the main anthems of the sexual life, right? So I'm going to rewrite this. Just because I like writing it, man. Such a narcissist. We'll even put .com just so everybody knows in case they didn't get that, right? But there's an anthem that I put, which I've kind of subscribed as a little bit of a philosophy or tagline that I put, when I send out an email or maybe make a post or something like that. It says, be social, be sexual, and live life, all right? And one of the things, if you guys have seen my other speeches, there was a 2011 21 Convention speech in London that I did where I break down the meaning of the sexual life. And it's very important for me. So this philosophy, if you were to take interacting with somebody in a purely social environment, whether you wanted to make friends, you wanted to get a job, you wanted to sell something, you wanted to meet somebody, you wanted to turn a girl on, just unleash her sexuality, or you wanted to build a relationship, it all fits in with all the stuff that we talk about, the meaning of the sexual life, and I would encourage you guys to check that video out. But this here, what we're talking about is a few different things. And I think through this, we can achieve the philosophy of the sexual life a little bit more, which is to be social, be sexual, and live life. So let's actually start with the be social part. Number one of the things that I feel is necessary in order to have, human connection. Whether that's making a friend or looking somebody in the eye and feeling an emotion with them, or a woman that in a bar for the first time you turn her on and her face glazes over and she likes you and you're like, oh man, and you start to get turned on back and you feel that chemistry. Or you meet a woman and you make love and have this beautiful experience with her. In order to truly experience that stuff, you need to realize that fundamentally we need to be social. And a lot of the times in pickup, we learn to do something, which is to put on a facade, put on an act, take on a character. And actually, Keith Norris is speaking tomorrow, one of the best personal trainers in the world. Again, how the 21 Convention influenced my life in so many ways is he was teaching me Romanian deadlifts, and he said, look, Steve, The first rule of teaching is to mimic, all right? We do that all the time in this industry. First rule of teaching is to mimic. But he said, I want you to mimic me, get the form down, and then get your form down. Very clear. You need to, or I needed to be myself while doing a Romanian deadlift, which sucks, and I'm not all that great at it. But he'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Anyway, but in order for me to have my best social experiences, I need to be myself. If I'm living a facade, guess what that is? That's not a connection. That's not an emotion. That's not that's not something which is building the vast capabilities of human connection, sexuality, socialization. What it is an act. And it's an act based on a reaction, which is probably based off of a fear or insecurity. And if we only live life like that, it doesn't go anywhere. So one of the things in the sexual life, in order to not kind of go down that road and build a life where you can truly be a pure expression of yourself, I kind of break up socialization into 4 things. And I'll try and be quick here, because there's a lot of stuff, man. So we have self-expression. And I'm actually just going to write all these suckers down here before I go into the great and vast detail of them all. In the meantime, who's you guys' favorite speaker so far? You. Yes! Oh, man. Good thing I'm turned around, because I just, whoa. I can't write words and be kind of turned on a little bit. All right. What's this last one? Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. Man, how's that for narcissism? It would have been cool if I did them in different colors, and then we could all trip out. Mozart used to compose his music in different colors just to throw off the different conductors and stuff. Pretty funny thing. Anyway, so being social is a ladder where I want to get to a certain area of self-expression, all right? And we start out with self-expression. Self-expression is all the techniques that you're going to learn. If you're learning how to, we just learned great stuff, from what Adam was teaching. And I forget the actual thing, but when somebody does something and there's a body language thing, it's a technique, man. It's a form of learning self-expression. It's a form of exchanging self-expression back and forth with somebody. This could be techniques in pickup. I used to harp on them a lot. They're not bad. They're good. They're tools, though. They're tools so that we can learn to express ourselves better. So number one, we got to start with who we are. That could be stories. That could be escalation techniques, like when you're in the bedroom. It could be what you're doing in a strip club. It could be doing what you're doing in a nightclub. This is all how to express yourself. But if you're not expressing yourself, if you're only expressing something which is based on something else, or if you're only expressing something which is outside of yourself, or perhaps this is another thing, when we're afraid to actually express something because, we don't know if it'll work. Shit, man, I'll tell you this, with all the experience that I have a lot of experience in this stuff, right? I've done everything you could imagine. If a woman makes me afraid or challenges me in my self-expression, that's actually a woman that I would want to talk to, all right? But I want to learn how to express myself. But if I learn how to express myself, I'm going to start to build an exchange. And let's say it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then maybe my technique is flawed. There's actually 2 reasons. My technique is flawed, or I'm not actually presenting myself in the right way. But once I start doing that with somebody, let's say it's in any environment. It could be in the daytime, it could be nighttime, it could be direct game or whatever shit they have out there that they're selling. But once I start exchanging with somebody, then I start to explore myself. And what I mean by this is this. If I meet a girl and I exchange anything, all the way from relationship to quick sex, I don't want to know your first name type stuff, right? There's a level of me having to be myself. And when that happens and I exchange with another human being, because sexuality is a powerful, powerful thing, socialization is a powerful thing, it's going to influence me. And when you start to exchange with somebody, you are going to feel things which you've never felt before. I want women. I want women. I don't even know what fear or jealousy is, or I know what fear, towards approaching a girl might be. But then when I start exchanging with her, then I know what fear of loss is. I know what fear of true rejection is. I know what fear of showing my real self, who I am, like all my good sides and bad sides, and seeing whether or not that's rejected or not. And I start to explore who I am, and I get to research and find out more things. You can make parallels to this in fitness and martial arts. You could make parallels to this in diet and exercise. Well, I guess that's fitness, right? But once we actually explore ourselves, then we move to this point of where we accept ourselves. And this is a huge key point of socialization. When we can accept ourselves and we see certain things, like for instance, we may be somebody that finds out certain things about ourselves, like we can be really great at talking to people and really aggro and the life of the party and fun. And we can understand that identity, right? We can be somebody who might be really manipulative and go like, fuck, man, I'm taking advantage in these situations. We could be somebody that is really afraid. Like when we escalate on a woman, we start to get all this like sexual anxiety, and it moves into not being able to take things to the next level and actually like, move into an enriching sexual experience. There might be all sorts of things that we find out in our exploration. And the key factor in this, and one of the things that I truly think is a break from the idea of the sexual life, is that in most of the stuff taught out there, we're taught to deny this. We're taught to not see it. We're taught to push through a comfort zone. We're taught to fight through it. We're taught to NLP it out of our minds, when really we need to experience that. We need to experience what that's like and embrace it. One of the key factors for myself, I was going over one of these like inventory things that I do with my buddy Dave, and I was talking about all this crazy shit, with these experiences with women that I had, and I was like, man, and I keep doing the same thing over and over again. I don't think it's going to change. And this is, it's like Steve, the pickup artist guy that's got it all right? But man, geez, really? Come on. You want to get, okay, there you go. It's all good. It gives me a break and lets me reset to think about what I was talking about. But anyway, so I'm going over this stuff, and I'm really believing this in my head, man. It's a pattern that I don't see breaking. I got everything I want. I got how to be cool. I got how to get chicks. I got all this stuff. But why can't I have this freedom of who I am as a sexual being? And he said, you know what, dude, look, if you're a guy that likes to fuck chicks, if you're a guy that likes to have these experiences, and I'm thinking like he's going to judge me, I'm like, oh shit, man, that's what I got to do. He's like, why don't you just be that person? And as soon as you can exist and be that person, once you can understand what that means and start accepting responsibility for it and going like, all right, well, if X, Y, Z happens, then some bad shit might happen. And just say, okay. Now, what happened there was because I could accept it, then I could transition and evolve those things. And sometimes they change, sometimes they don't change. But socialization and sexuality are big things. And this next thing is kind of funny, because I always felt weird when I would teach it and talk to guys about it. But my buddy Hypnotica, or Eric, as you guys might also know him, he brought this up. He was on a call with me, and he said, man, I'm fucking sick of these guys. Actually, he's speaking at another convention with me in a month, and he actually was very honored by this. He said that he wanted to speak right next to me because we'd share the same message. And I was like, man, that's fucking badass. Like, I've only been teaching in this thing for like 6 years. That guy's a freaking dinosaur and a Wolverine. But yeah, you get that? Oh. But anyway, he said, look, if we are learning all the techniques to get all the things that we want, I don't give a fuck, man. And he got like really passionate about it. He's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if a guy can like fuck a bunch of chicks. I don't care if a guy can take a girl home quicker than I can or ever could. I don't give a shit if he can manage and run a strip club and have a bunch of people worship him. What I care about is that he got to a point where he could love himself and love other people. And I was like, fuck, here's this alpha dude with tattoos. And, I wouldn't want to fight him. And, I don't know. I mean, I work with Ed back there. You'll see him speak on Sunday. I don't know if I could take Hypnotica. We'll see you in L.A. No, but cut that part out of the video. No, but anyway, so he said that. And I was like, fuck, dude, here's this big guy, kind of the definition of alpha, the definition of the facade that everybody's chasing with a self-expression in the community of what you're supposed to be. And he's saying, no, man, it's all about how can I manage this. And I remember him speaking many times and hearing him, and I really looked up to him in a lot of ways. One of the few people that I actually respected. And he said, look, you could talk about, this was another time, he's like, you could talk about whatever you wanted to do with, he manages a bunch of strip clubs and owns them. I don't know what his deal is, but he's the dude. Anyway, he's like, you could ask about all the sexual escalation stuff and strippers and how to fuck chicks until they like go into submission and worship you and all this stuff. But he's like, look, you got to be a man enough to take that, you know? And if you're a guy that wants a 10, you know, and you're nowhere near a 10 yourself, what the fuck are you going to do with that, man? You know, all that shit's going to do is just break you down. And so what this is about evolving to be a better person. And fundamentally, I feel that one needs to move in this direction in terms of socialization, all right? Now let's get into the sexual part, which is the cool shit, because everybody wants to talk about that. Now remember, we're going to break this up into 2 parts, and in a few moments, we're going to have some ladies take the stage who are my partners in crime in this whole thing, and they can tell you what I guess women really think. Don't listen to me, man. All right, so bisexual, what the hell does that mean, right? Well, this is a funny thing. I was actually talking to Melissa and Janelle, who were standing over there yesterday, and it was so cool because I had thought this, and we hadn't talked about this. You know, and this has been like a dynamic of one of my things, and I was like, man, there isn't any socialization. And I didn't even finish my sentence, and then they started chiming in, and they were like, no, it's all sexual. Like we socialize so that we can be sexual beings. That is the fundamental thing within us, that we have a drive to do, and through that, we will learn how to socialize and create cultures and talk to each other and all that sort of stuff. You put a man and woman in front of each other and you give them a long enough time to sit there, sexuality is going to come out of it. And see, the thing is we're always trying to learn about tactics, techniques, all that sort of shit. And actually, I should probably do this little triangle of this progression that I have. Why not? Because I'm going to reference it at some point. We'll make it small. But we'll do ID, application, and technique. If everybody can read that, but I don't know how to spell, whatever. I'm just over it. I've accepted it. Self-accept. Now I can love myself. So anyway, But when we come down to it, we want to have our identification, who we are as beings, actually turn into the application. The application is the types of women we want to meet, where we want to meet them, the type of game we want to learn, all that sort of stuff. And that feeds our technique. The problem with pickup is, and I guarantee you hear this over and over again, technique, technique, technique. Where do we apply it? Here. Okay, so that defines who we are. And then we're this dipshit who's hanging out in a club with a pink mohawk that fucking has no friends. And doesn't have, like, I don't know, fucks people as a result, not as an experience. But the thing is when we talk about sexuality, look, it is in here. It's in who we are. And if we can just find the applications for it, it will happen. Like, you have to have faith that it is within us. And all our techniques are doing is reflecting the application. If I like to go to a coffee shop and sit around and not do anything, which is what I was doing last night, and sorry, man, that's what I do. I'm old, man. I'm almost 35. Jeez, man. I take 5 Viagra when I wake up just to get out of bed. Fuck, Jesus Christ. Took too many today. Oh, well, yeah. I'm small. You can't see it. Anyway, but anyway, so let's do our speeches naked. Anyway, so the thing is if that's me, you know, if that's me, if that's what I like relaxing and chilling out in those sorts of ways, right? Then I'm going to put myself in an area where that can happen. If I don't like high stimuli, if I don't like being in big party environments, if I don't like being at concerts, if I don't like being on a dance floor, then why the hell am I going to learn techniques to do that? You know, it might be to master a technique. You don't want to be well-rounded or something, but as soon as you get a result from that, you should move on. What I want to do is I want to have my identification, who I am, what I want, you know, my fears, my insecurities, my passions, the things I'm proud of, the things I'm attracted to about women, the things that I'm not attracted to about women. I want those to define where I'm applying them. Why isn't anybody doing this? Jesus Christ, man, this isn't rocket science. God, I'm a dude who did a lot of drugs and didn't graduate from high school, and obviously I can spell. So anyway, and that should be feeding our social dynamic. That should be feeding what we learn, what we do. There's nothing wrong with negs. There's nothing wrong with teases. There's nothing wrong with the super right-hand vast hippo moxo, whatever new thing that is being presented. But it should be serving our identity, not our identity serving it. Does that make sense? I mean, I see it so many times. So many times we're trying. Why are we trying? Why? Because we haven't established an identity for ourselves. We have no self-expression. We have no sense of ourselves. We've thrown that away so that we can learn a technique, so that we can get a result because we're lonely with women? Or why is it? Because we want something? Fuck, I wanted it too. But I also needed to relearn how to have good sex and experience good stuff. So when we get into being sexual, this is where the sexual life comes into play. And I'll be really, really quick with this because I want to get to the live life part because that's fun too. And I might be out of time. So there's two things, right? There's sexual, there's life. And we talked about this in that London speech. Whoop-de-doo, cool stuff. So life has a few things. And God, man, I still don't know how to work a board. I write on enough of them, you'd think I would get it. So there's a facade, and there's an identification. There's also an experience. We'll just abbreviate that one too. And we'll say system. That looks like a $. How's that for salesmanship? Buy from me now. Then we have purpose. And in purpose, a lot of times we have the counter to that, which is result. Okay, so all these things are great things, right? And we'll even write this too. All these things are great. Facades, we all use them. Action systems, all that sort of stuff, we all use those too, and there's nothing wrong with that. I so want to be like Richard Feynman and be able to write and talk at the same time. You're a Michio Kaku fan? Richard Feynman fan. All right. So anyway, check this out. A lot of times in life, instead of having an identification, we hit a facade. We've talked about that. There's nothing wrong with a facade as long as your facade serves yourself. All right? That means I'm in a facade right now. I'm a speaker on stage. I'm supposed to act certain ways. I'm supposed to dress certain ways. But does it serve and reflect who I am? Or does it define me? Do I wear my clothes, or do they wear me? All right, my underwear, that's a different story. The experience versus system. All right, there's nothing wrong with systems. There's nothing wrong with actions. There's nothing wrong with game plans. There's nothing wrong with all that. We need to have them. But what would a life be like, right, if we didn't serve our experience? If there wasn't a variable in there? I have game plans, I have systems for stuff, but guess what, man? They can fail. And I guarantee you, everybody else's systems that they put out there can fail too. But the beauty of it is the experience that I can derive from that. And oftentimes, of course, we're going for a result. Who doesn't like results? Who doesn't like definitions to who they are and all that fun stuff? But if it doesn't serve our purpose and who we are, what is that result, man? They're all just reactions to an ill-established identity. Now, the thing is our sex can also be just an action. A seduction can be a process, and our sexuality can be a result of our sex and seduction. But what it needs to be is our sex can be an action as long as it's serving our identity. Our seduction can be a process or a system or a series of actions, an escalation pattern, all that fun stuff, as long as it serves an experience, right? Our sexuality is our definition of these two things. But man, if my sexuality was just defined by my results, if a girl rejected me, or if I'm with a girl and let's say like I have some fears and I can't escalate, let's say a real common thing that nobody talks about in the seduction industry, and this is amazing to me because instructors always come to me with it because I'm always talking about sex, but they're like, Steve, I have this thing with in the bedroom, and I'm like, what, man? You can't get it up, or you come too quick, or what's this? And they're like, well, yeah. But I'm like, dude, like 70% of my clients have that too, man, and the best thing to do is to freaking talk about it rather than keep it as some big secret that's going to eat you alive. But this, how to be sexual in this way and how to serve your identity and how to exchange with somebody is a key thing. The next thing is this whole awesome thing of living life, all right? And actually, I'm going to keep this awesome triangle up here. Ed, you're going to laugh at this. I called it the progressive learning system. That's for you, baby. It's for you. Yeah, good. What? You didn't make that. Anyway, so there's a few things here, guys. This is one of the awesome things that has come out of my experience in this, all right? I'm somebody that's lived kind of like an interesting life. And I don't mean that as like, I've lived life as a human being on earth, but I've done a lot of crazy shit. And one of the greatest expressions of joining the pickup scene was my experience in that. I mean, I was willing to do whatever. I remember I heard a guy talk about, well, I heard a dude talk about managing strippers, and I had to do it. And I heard a guy talk about, all these like pimp tactics or threesome tactics, and I had to go and try it. I had to go and seek those things out. And it's so funny because later I realized like most of those guys talking about were just full of shit. But I managed to meet all these interesting people and hit huge walls in my life through sex, through socializing, and making a lot, actually being an inauthentic person while experiencing them, because I wanted that result. And one of the things that it taught me was that I needed to humble myself towards life. Socializing and seduction are forces of nature. They're bigger than me. I'm never going to change them. And if you try and change something that is bigger than you and you're not humble, you will be humiliated by it. And that's the truth, man. I see it happen over and over with people. And when I hit those points of where, let's say, you get knocked on your ass and you're desperate and all that stuff, and you're, all of a sudden being religious and going like, please, I'll never do it again, and meaning it, and then, a week later you're doing it. Maybe you can't relate. But anyway, the thing is it made me realize that all of this is an expression of life. Just like I said, socializing is really a slave to seduction. And seduction is really a slave to life. And they all work together. And one of the beautiful things about life was this came to me like this year. And I've done a lot of stuff. And one of the things is that I feel that in seduction, it's one of the highest forms of communication we can have with somebody. And when you experience it, you hit a different level of who you are and who you are with somebody else and how that defines you. And it's an amazing thing. And it also got me more into meditation and exploring different parts of myself. And there was a time this year where I was like, man, nothing was going right. Like everything in my life was fucked. And I truly credit to my experience that I've had in the seduction industry and the exploration of who I am as a person and who I've sought out and what I've done to do that. And a lot of it came from outside of the whole seduction industry. More of the insights to this stuff actually came from the porn industry than the seduction industry, which is interestingly enough. But what it told me was like life is going to happen. What time are we at?
You're about halfway through.
Okay. Hold up the signs, man. Hold up the signs. So anyway, the thing is that it taught me that life was meant to be lived, and it was going to happen regardless, all right? So for instance, if we look at it biologically, and you put out an environment where life can happen, it will happen. There will be different organisms that will take over that. And what's interesting about that is either those organisms will work together or they'll consume each other, and one will have to kill the other. And if what we have in ourselves when we're seducing on that level and we're exchanging with people on that level is if we have conflicting things in ourselves, if we have that shame, if we have that guilt, if we have that fear that we're empowering by learning things that we, that are denying us, that are keeping us from being able to be ourselves and express and share with somebody else and truly feel, then guess what's going to happen? Those two things are going to hit an ecosystem and one's going to eat each other. Life is going to happen. Whether my body dies or continues to live, it's going to get consumed and transformed into some other crazy stuff. And I know I got to wrap this up because we have two parts to this, and you guys are really going to like the second part. I had to realize that my experiences with other people, I had to have faith that me just being in the right situations, finding out who I was, finding out what my right applications were, actually lessened my techniques of how I needed to talk to people. And my techniques were really just training wheels for me to learn how to ride my bike and be free and exist in the environments that I wanted to be in, rather than the things that defined me. And when I could do that, my life could be an effortless expression of myself. And look, man, I'm going to tell you this. My life has seen some ups and downs throughout its great 34-year history, but one of the most beautiful things about it is that as it goes on, the more and more that I am a part of it, the more and more that I can express and share things out in the world, the absolute reflection of it is a reflection of me and one that I'm proud of and one that I can stand in, no matter where I'm at, no matter what happens to me. and no matter what environments that I end up in. And that's one of the most beautiful freedoms that life can have. And that's something that I want all of you guys to have. So I'm actually going to wrap this part up, and we're going to do part 2 of this speech. You guys ready?
Ready.
Man, you guys look like you're falling asleep. Jeez. I'm not.
That's the other guy, not me.
Good, good. All right.